You're listening to the Hunt Suburbia podcast. I'm your host, Pat Guyette. Big bucks I've been dreaming often, every night till I'm in a coffin. Vermont woods to the burbs of Boston, I'm looking for a tree to get lost in. Crisp mornings, little dust in the snow. Quality time, just me and my bow. Fall evenings, I know just where to go for some quality times for me and my bow. It's just me and my bow.
This episode is brought to you by Heron Hill Winery. Go to heronhill.com, make sure that they deliver to your state, and use code HS5 at checkout for an additional 5%.
Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Oh, it sure did come suddenly, didn't it, boys and girls? I know there's some girls listening out there. Hey, bow season is over. Finito. Finished. Done. No more bow season. Well, actually, that's not true because in Massachusetts, if you're listening from Massachusetts, you can still hunt with your bow the rest of the year. And I know there's a number of states where that's the case as well. But for me, I'm hanging the bow up. It's been a long bow season for me. It's been a crazy year. I mean, I know everybody knows it's been a crazy year. And for some reason, I just started this episode singing Yesterday by the Beatles. I had a long karaoke session trying to keep my 5-month-old son entertained today for about an hour, and I just let YouTube take me through random songs. And Yesterday came on, and I was like, man, I like this one. I'm going to put this on my go-to karaoke list. And, it's also fitting because yesterday is the official end of bow season in Massachusetts. Now, for some people, they are going to be done. For me, it just means I'm done with the bow. There's a 9-pointer out there with my name on it. He's a really big buck, and I've talked about him in a couple episodes, and I do want to get another shot at him. I want to get a crack at him. I'm bringing out the muzzleloader. I love shooting a muzzleloader. It's a really great weapon to bring out. And for me, it's like the change of the seasons. I live in the Northeast because I like to have 4 seasons. I don't want to be somewhere where it's hot all the time or even where it's cold all the time. I like a change of seasons. I brought my bow out probably 20 sits this year. Spent a lot of time with me and my bow. I'm going to have to write a remix to me and my bow, and it's going to be me and my muzzy. But no, honestly, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to last year. I didn't hunt with a muzzleloader at all, except for one day. We got some snow, and I drove to a big patch of woods. Tried some tracking. I got on a fresh track, followed him for 5 or 6 miles, and didn't catch up to him, never jumped him, nothing. But it was fun to get out there. But this year, I've got a couple of spots in mind where I'm going to try to get this 9-point buck, which I think he's 150 incher, and he was beautiful, and he snuck up on me and got the best of me one day. He was with a smart doe. I'll give it to him. He chose a smart doe to follow that day, and she was on to me, and Coyote came in and pushed them out. So, hey, I've got some unfinished business with him. But yesterday was the end of bow season for me. Now, I'm not going to say that definitively because I might hunt. There's a couple places that I like to hunt that are bow only and no discharge town. So, hey, I might. If I get a picture in this area, if for somehow, some way, a really big buck shows up here that's bigger than this 9-pointer I want to get, I may just dust the old bow off and get out in one of my stands, that are bow only stands. But you know what? I wouldn't be sad if the bow was got a little rest and saved up for next season. Now, before we're going to do something a little bit weird, a little bit different this episode. There's no guest, so it's just me rambling on, and that might not be very good, and some of you guys might like it. Hey, I don't know. And we're going to do a little story time, okay? I'm going to get into, later on in the episode, I'm going to read a story that I saw floating around the Vermont deer hunting pages. It was a story about this, it's a father-son story, from Youth Weekend. The kid shot a really, really nice buck, and he tracked him for miles and miles and miles before it got onto some private land, and the owner was not happy with him, was very rude to him, kicked him off the land, and then the buck was found drowned in a lake, and someone took a picture of it and posted on Facebook about how, hey, someone didn't do a great job looking for their buck or didn't really go all the extra effort for the recovery. Your nice buck just drowned in the lake. Maybe try a little bit harder next time. And it's just a classic case of when social media gets it wrong. And unfortunately, social media gets it wrong a lot. And, this kid went, you'll just hear it because his father, at the end of the story, the story has a great ending to it. I don't want to spoil it, but you'll hear what they went through to get that buck. And he wrote an amazing blog and gave me permission to read it. So I'm going to read it out loud. And but before we do that, since it's Thanksgiving week, I wasn't able to line up a guest. I've been doing some traveling, and it's just been super busy and very focused on the family, and so there's no guest this week, but I just want to do a quick recap of the season, and because it's Thanksgiving week, I just want to say all the things that I'm thankful for this year. And I know we're already 3 days past Thanksgiving, but it's a good exercise to go through, because there's a lot of things that you don't realize that you're thankful for. We spend a lot of time with ourselves and thinking out in the tree, out in the woods, on our adventures. That's one of the most amazing things about hunting is you've got so much time with yourself to think about why your life is amazing, to forget about bad things and think about good things. We all go through some struggles and stuff, but when you're out in the woods, you can kind of forget about all of that stuff. And for me, it really helps me hone in on, what I'm grateful for. And I just want to run through 2020. I mean, it's been an amazing year. I got married last year to my beautiful wife, and, I love her very much, and I thank her very much for letting me get out in the woods as much as I have this year. I know it's a struggle. I just know it is, because unless you're a hunter yourself, you really don't understand, just how much it is built into the fiber of your being to want to get out there and chase whitetails. I tell my wife it's a part of me, and it really is. It is a part of who I am. If I ever stopped doing it, I wouldn't be who I am. And as the Beatles said, I wouldn't be half the man I used to be if that ever happened. So getting out there and chasing whitetails, it is who I am. It's a huge part of who I am, and I really thank my wife for understanding that and letting me get out there and do what I love to do and do what makes me be me. I want to thank my amazing son. He's 5 months old. He was born in June this year, and he has just been the greatest blessing that I could have ever wished for. And he is just such, every day he changes, he does something new, he's learning, he's smiling, he's laughing. He is the man. He loves the outdoors. I just want to thank him for being a loving addition to our family and just a joy every single day and teaching me something new about myself. I want to thank my father for getting me into hunting at such a young age and making it a great part of my life. There's so many other things that he could have got me into, that wouldn't be as productive and as rewarding as
hunting is. So I thank my dad for getting me into hunting. I thank my mother-in-law who lives with us here and helps us out so much in watching our son during the week, so my wife and I can continue to work our full-time jobs. And then after our full-time jobs, I can continue to do stuff like this podcast. And my wife and I are entrepreneurs. We always have another project that we want to be working on. And sometimes we do too many projects at once, so there isn't enough free time to relax and enjoy the good things. But we do things that we love after our day jobs, and I think everybody should do that. And I'm thankful and grateful for that. Just being able to do something that I love, so much, which is talking about hunting, which is hunting, and getting out there and chasing whitetails. Beyond that, there's so many people to thank. Even hunting buddies this year. Thanks again to Chris. Chris helped me get my buck out of the woods. That 9-pointer, I was very lucky and thankful to harvest. Chris helped me again because I don't have a pickup truck yet. If I'm gonna be hoping to keep killing bigger and bigger bucks, I might as well get a pickup truck. But hey, I was going to this year, but COVID hit. Finances, are a little bit tight. I'm sure as everybody's are. So put the old truck on the back burner. But hey, you know what? I did get I fit him in my Jeep. That buck fit in there nicely. But it was nice to have Chris there to help me lift him up and get him in there quickly. As we know in the suburbs, you even though everything that you're doing is legal and is just you're not committing any kind of a crime. Sometimes people will look at you like you're some sort of a criminal if you got a dead deer with you. Everybody knows how they can be. I'm still looking for an anti-hunter to interview on the podcast, by the way. So if anybody's got a neighbor or somebody that is very much against hunting and they want to hear them on the podcast, I'd love to have a one-on-one conversation. Just hear their side out and give our side and have a good back and forth about hunting, and really try to educate them on the reasons why we're hunting and how we're not these savage barbarians that a lot of people think that we are. Getting off on a tangent there, but seriously, if anybody's got an anti-hunter that they've had some run-ins with and they want to extend an olive branch out to him and say, hey, listen, there's a podcast I listen to. He's looking for somebody who is against hunting to go on there and have a civil conversation and debate. Please let me know. And, just hit me up on the DMs or send me an email and we'll set it up. There's many things I'm thankful for. There's many people I'm thankful for. I know I've probably missed a bunch. Kevin Polis, he's helped me out a lot this year. Every single one of my guests on the podcast has taught me something. And I sincerely mean that they've all taught me something, and how to become a better hunter. And they all really contributed to me being able to harvest my best buck of my lifetime this year. I took little pieces away from everybody, and all these amazing conversations that allowed me to harvest that buck. I can remember one of the early guests, Jake Bennett, saying MRI baby, most recent intel, that's what you should be hunting. If sign has dried up, you shouldn't be there. Hunt the fresh sign. And this place was smoking fresh. And that's why I kept hunting that place while it was smoking fresh, while I was still seeing deer, while I was still seeing the sign. I kept going in there. And every sit, I kept seeing deer, and the bucks were getting bigger every sit, if you can believe it. They got bigger and bigger. Even after I killed that buck, the next time I went in there, I saw that big 150-inch 9-pointer. So they kept getting bigger. But recently, it has dried up. So I haven't been going in there as much. I went in there yesterday. When all my troubles seem so far. No, I went in there yesterday as the last day of bow season. I wanted to check out the sign, check my cameras. I hadn't been in there in a week. Super dry, man. There was nothing on those cameras. So
I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to wait until I start getting some pictures on those cameras again, and I'm going to try to get in there with my muzzleloader and kill that buck. But most recent intel, I probably wouldn't have been hunting there if, I didn't hunt the fresh sign. And it sounds like, duh, like that sounds like the easiest thing in the world if you're getting into hunting is like, you want to hunt where there's fresh sign. But guess what, man? I've been hunting 20 years, even more than 20 years, just the last 4 with a bow. And still, it never really clicked to me like, there's a whole bunch of fresh scrapes here. Just stay here. Maybe it was the wandering mentality that I have, and wanting to get up and see what's over the next ridge, as so many people talk about. I really have that. I don't like to sit for long times. The only time I do, I sit for long periods of time because I know in bow hunting scenarios, especially, that's the way you're going to kill a big buck. You got to sit. You got to put in the hours. But I've always been like, wanting to get up and wanting to go check out other stuff. And maybe there was 1 or 2 fresh scrapes here, but, maybe on the other side of the ridge, there's 4 or 5. So I always leave those areas. And what I have in the past, I've left those areas that have had some good sign, where now I know if there's fresh buck sign in an area, and you can tell, I've been starting to figure out, the difference between a big buck scrape and a small buck scrape, and the big buck rubs and the small buck rubs, all that stuff. You put in enough hours, you can start to notice the difference. And when I went in there that day to kill that 9-pointer, on the way in, I texted, once I sat down, I texted with Kevin, man, you should have seen the scrapes on the way in here. They were 6 feet long by 3 feet wide, and they were smoking fresh. They were right down to the pricker bushes. They had pricker bushes coming out that were green. Looks like they just sprouted up out of there. These were smoking fresh scrapes, and they were big, and I knew it was done by a big buck. If you guys watch, I put up a couple of videos on YouTube this past week, and I'm just learning the editing. I've never been a video editor. I've never been a podcaster, never been a podcast editor. All this stuff I'm kind of learning on the fly, but I was able to get some of the footage of me sitting in the tree talking about those fresh scrapes the day I killed that 9-pointer, and I then overlaid the game camera footage that I had from that scrape, and I'm able to show you in real time the buck that went in there and made that fresh scrape that I'm pointing to in the camera. So I thought that was pretty neat, and you just you learn so much by observing and putting your time in. This year, I think during bow season, I saw more than 80 deer and less than 90, somewhere in the 80s. I saw, and I think it was 18 bucks total, and 6 of them were mature bucks. Some of them might have been repeats, hard to tell. Some of the other ones, none of the mature bucks were repeats. I only saw each and every one of the mature bucks that I saw this year. I saw them once while in the stand, actually, because I jumped the 9-pointer that I ended up killing on a day that I wasn't hunting. It was a Sunday, so I obviously wasn't hunting, and I was just going to check a camera, and I jumped him, so I saw him more than once. But every other buck, while sitting, and every mature buck, only saw them once. And unfortunately, I'm starting to think that could, I don't want to be pessimistic, but that could be the case with that big 150-inch 9-pointer. I had my chance at him that day, and maybe I won't get another one, but hey, I'm hoping. I really am hoping that I get another shot at him. And if I don't get him this year, I would really like to see what he turns into next year. So I hope nobody else gets him, unless, you're one of the few hunting buddies who knows where he is. And in that case, I don't mind. I would love if one of you guys got him as well. So, yeah, in a nutshell, this season has been amazing. I got my friend Scotland, Evan Potter. He's been one of my best friends since college. He's been my best fishing buddy. He's a much better fisherman than me. He's taught me a lot about fishing, and I always wanted to get him into hunting. He always knew that there was a desire to get into hunting deep inside of him, and this year he took the safety course and did all the stuff that he had to do. He bought a gun. He practiced with it almost daily. I mean, he loves shooting that thing. He's a better shot than me with a rifle already. Well, maybe. I think he might be, though. He's practiced quite a bit, and he's a really good shot. I was able to get him a buck on novice weekend. We went into it, and we weren't expecting. We weren't expecting it. If you go in with low expectations, you're going to surprise yourself, and that's what we did. And just had one of the best memories of my life with my best friend, and that's what hunting is all about. That's why we do it. That same weekend, Chris came up to Vermont for his first time ever hunting outside of Massachusetts. I had prepared him as well, saying, hey, look, sometimes I go a whole season in Vermont, 10 hunting days or something like that I might get up there and see 5 deer. So, don't expect it to be this hunting paradise. You're going to see a ton of deer. So he went up with low expectations with his bow, and he got a hell of a Vermont buck, a nice 6-pointer that same weekend. So that's a weekend that I'll remember for forever. Both their names are going up on our deer hunting camp list, which is a legendary list that's been hanging in camp since 1956, and their names are added to the bottom of it right now. So that memory will live on, and I'm grateful and thankful for that. I'm thankful that my dad came down to Massachusetts, his first time hunting Massachusetts, and he was able to harvest his first deer ever with a bow. And he got a doe down here, a nice 120-pound mature doe, and that was an awesome experience. So as if, those 3 things, plus the birth of my son, plus being able to harvest a nice 9-pointer, that's my best buck of my life, and surely bow buck. All of those things adding up to a really great year. If you get rid of all the COVID stuff, you get rid of all the income loss, and I'm sure there's some loss of life out there. People who are listening to this who had someone who they know, or 1 or 2 degrees of separation who died from COVID. It's been a really bad year, COVID-wise, but there have been some great silver linings, in the rest of my life, and that I am very, very thankful for. So, all right, enough with the sappy stuff. Enough with this monologue. I'm sure I bored half of you guys to death. Let's get into. I just want to read this story. This really is. It was so well written. It was so well written that I reached out to the guy and I said, "Hey, man, that was great. I got a podcast. I would love to read it out loud over the podcast if you give me permission." And he did. So let's get into the story. Look, I hate ticks. You hate ticks. I know you hate ticks. I know your parents hate ticks. I know your kids hate ticks. We all hate ticks. You know what I want to do to ticks? I want to kill them. You know how you do that? Sawyer permethrin. Not only repels ticks, keeps them off your clothes, but if they do happen to get on there, it'll kill them. They only have to go over 1.5 inches of your clothing that's been treated with Sawyer permethrin to die. What's better than that? Maybe killing a big buck, but this is a close second. These guys are an amazing company. They're U.S. based. They're family owned and operated. Look for the yellow bottle. You can find them in Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, Dick's Sporting Goods, Moose Jaw, REI. Find them online. Whatever you got to do. Get Sawyer permethrin. It is not expensive. It'll save your life from these diseases that ticks carry. And it's a quick application. You spray it on your clothes, spray it on your hat, put it on your socks and shoes, put it on your backpack. Let it dry outside in the breeze, and it dries odorless. The deer are not going to pick you off from putting this stuff on your clothes, I guarantee you. Get Sawyer permethrin. You won't regret it. Trophy Ridge products are intelligently designed to give you a distinct advantage and be deadly accurate. The team at Trophy Ridge believes smart, hunt-inspired innovation should be at the foundation of each product's existence. You have enough to worry about on a hunt. Your gear should not be one of them. Trophy Ridge accessories give you the comfort of always knowing you're using the best bow hunting equipment when out in the woods or at the range. For information on the all-new 2021 lineup of Trophy Ridge sights,
quivers, rests, releases, and stabilizers, visit trophyridge.com. Trophy Ridge, the tools bow hunters trust. All right, here's a little pro tip for you guys, and this is probably the most important tip that I can give you as a hunter. Whether you're a new hunter or you're a veteran hunter, this is something that is going to go a long, long way into helping you kill deer. So make sure you're paying attention, okay? What you have to do is make sure that your wives and your girlfriends are happy during hunting season. I mean, you should make sure that they're happy all year long, but especially during hunting season, make sure that they're happy. So butter them up a little bit extra. What I've always found that works really well is buying her some wine. So I buy a case of wine from Heron Hill Winery at the beginning of the season, and if I get through it, which we usually do somewhere around, middle November, I'll re-up and I'll buy another case. Heron Hill Winery is out of the Finger Lakes in New York. One of my best friends is the vineyard manager there, so that's why I started supporting them, but I keep coming back because I love their wine. The owner of the vineyard is a big-time hunter, and he makes some great red wines specifically that pair well with venison and game birds. My favorite is the Eclipse Red. It's a nice full-body red, and it goes great with any kind of venison. And their Game Bird Red is great with any kind of game birds, but, they've got tons of wines. Go check them out. And they have a special deal for Hunt Suburbia podcast listeners. That's you guys. If you want to keep supporting us, please support our sponsors. And there is not a better sponsor to go out and support than Heron Hill Winery. Go to heronhill.com and use code HS5 for an additional 5%. So what they got on there is if you buy 6 bottles or more, there's a volume discount where you get 10% off. So with HS5, you'll get an additional 5% off, which they don't give to anybody else, just you guys. And if you buy a full case, which is 12 bottles for all of you mathematicians out there, you'll get 15% off from their volume discount plus an additional 5%. So that's 20% off total using code HS5. And also, any purchases of 6 or more bottles, it's free shipping. So they're one of the only wineries that have free shipping out there, and they'll get it right to your doorstep in these COVID times. And, you can get it within a week of ordering it. And I really just can't tell you enough. Go out there, support Heron Hill Winery. That's heronhill.com, and use code HS5 so that we know that you're going there from listening to us, and you're going to go a long way to helping out this podcast. Heron Hill Winery, the official wine of hunters, and more importantly, their wives and girlfriends everywhere. Just real quick to set this up, I know I kind of did set it up in the monologue, but a really nice buck was killed by a teenage kid in Vermont, a nice 10-pointer, and nearly weighed 200 pounds in a part of Vermont where the deer don't get to that size very often. It is for that area, it's a once-in-a-lifetime buck, and the story is just one of, seriously, perseverance. These guys, the father and son, tracked this buck for 3+ miles. It went a great distance, and the buck ended up drowning in the water, and these guys got kicked off private. They went through all this public tracking this buck and went to, the buck went through a tiny sliver of private, and the owners didn't want him there. And, after that, they went through even greater lengths because the owners kicked him out. You'll see what they did to go find this buck. But anyway, it's a great story. It teaches about the kind of memories that you can have if you take your kids out hunting, or you take somebody else's kids out hunting, or you take anybody out hunting. These are the kind of experiences that you get, and it really will allow you to bond with whoever you're hunting with, and it'll teach them a lot about life. So let's get into that story. Welcome to a special edition of the Fireside Family Storytime with Pat Guyette. I am hesitant to write this post. However, after the unsolicited raucousness evoked by this past weekend's experience, perhaps a well-placed journal entry of sorts would allow for some closure and clarity for my son and I and our greater community. I have no interest in engaging with the Facebook jury. The following is sacred, and similar experiences are shared with reverence with only my family and friends. This is not about bragging or showing off. It's about a story, and one that was good for me to write, and you may enjoy it. It is difficult to draw upon a singular endeavor that awakens my inner vernacular more than Vermont deer hunting. I was steeped in its rawest form from birth. Awaiting the return of my dad's beat-up pickups embodied November mornings, twisted with anxiety, awaiting the answer to one of the most important questions. Did you get one? Precious Thanksgiving hunts with family, specifically my cousins, that can never be recreated, defined every first snowflake of the winter. The men that harvested deer, my father and uncle, were larger than life, and they still are, who utilized the hunt as a tool to teach visceral life lessons, like how to persevere in the face of adversity, patience, grace, thanks, lessons of death, and consumption. Please let it echo clearly. Deer hunting was never about blood sport. In my formative years, firearms never equated to violence, rather as implements to aid in making meat, in providing nourishment and sustenance. Hunting has been a conduit in allowing for a visceral connection to those that came before me, my own consumption as a biotic organism, and the ability to place myself directly within the transition of energy through the tropic layers of ecologic systems. The way in which I choose to hunt, a path chosen by the guiding light of my father, has been a simple one. Its definition is not to compete or pass judgment on anyone else. The immersion of the hunter in facing his quarry is to be as organic as possible. The allowance of modern technologies to define the success of a hunt proves to promote inequity and a lack of authenticism in my own journey as a hunter. Public lands offer a palpable chain-breaking opportunity to avoid posted lands, food plots, human territorialism, trail cameras, and modern cell phone apps. It's true, hunting can bring out the worst in humanity, but just as easily it does the opposite. Again, no judgment, and I am certainly not a perfect purist. However, a family heirloom of a rifle, some wool clothing, and a map and compass allow me access to an entire world where I can meet my landscape on its terms, humble myself, and assimilate to it. When fortunate enough to harvest a deer, I am able to provide for my family the most ethical and healthy meat available in the face of a broken food system. We rely on venison, unapologetically. My son is autonomous in relation to me. He is not as high-strung or as superfluous as his old man. 2 years ago was his first hunt. He slipped on our walk in the woods and broke the mounts to his scope, fouling his ability to make a shot on his first deer. My intensity stuck to him, and I am not sure he liked it. The following year, he chose not to hunt, and I learned a lesson. My heart trembled at the thought of not being able to pass down all I had learned as a hunter to my own flesh and blood. I said nothing, and when River announced he would like to hunt again, I felt a rush of blood to my head, and that trembling heart danced. River is 14. He was born with a serious astigmatism in his right eye, forcing him to shoot left-handed, despite that's not his natural preference. He is defining himself rapidly. I can hardly hold on as my son becomes a man. We scouted public land, talked about mast crops, the rut, deer trails, and scrapes and rubs. We found active deer sign where oaks scattered acorns, despite the mast crop being slim. We observed the early sign of deer mating season as pod deer scrapes began appearing overnight with large deer prints in them, a broken branch almost always casting a shadow in the late afternoon sun above. On Saturday afternoon, after finding our ledge perch at 4 a.m, I saw movement to my right. A deer. A buck. And well within the range of the .44 lever-action carbine we had chosen for River. I have harvested a fair number of deer and never one without buck fever. The holistic energy of the forest and of my elders manifests in my heart audibly pounding and my hands shaking like the beech leaves desperately holding on in late fall. River, shoot when ready, I quivered. He was steely, icy, focused, not at all shaken. 2 deep breaths and a half exhale before slowly squeezing the trigger. It felt like hours before the sound echoed off the shallow slate cliffs. The ungulate did not flinch when it ran, without hesitation. "Can we go find it?" River's voice broke to me from a trance. "Hold on, son. We do not want to push it. Let's give it some time to expire without any more trauma." We waited and left our ledge about a half hour later, looking for a hint of what we hoped would be close by. "River, I have blood." It was a deep red, a good sign. Constant and steady, it was easy to follow. "Stay focused, son. You are amazing. Any moment now." "I don't know, Dad. Maybe I should not have shot. I don't want this deer to suffer," he expressed. "Me neither, Riv. Sometimes it goes like this, and we will find it soon. I'm proud, and we will be giving thanks soon." The sun was lowering. We were tired, and it had been a long time. In fact, it had been miles. I had foolishly left my headlamp and hunting pack back at where we had made our sit. I did not expect this long of a recovery, not with this sign. I was not really even sure where we were. Certainly, I was not going to be able to dead reckon back to my truck this late in the day. I can handle myself in the woods. In fact, that's what I do professionally. I had to think with a clear head. We are in the Taconics. Real woods, but nothing that could not be walked out of in a few hours, I told myself. We soldered on, following the crimson stains on moss, leaf litter, and the herbaceous layer of the forest. We were headed downhill, a relief. I could see the last shimmers of light reflecting off what could be nothing other than the water through the oblique trees. "Dad, are we going to get this?" "Yes, son, it's our obligation." "Yet, I have never seen a deer do this before," I responded. The deer's trail was now drifty, with it completing sinuous weaves as it made its way downhill. "River, the buck is heading to water, and maybe it's out of its direct home territory. Deer often seek water before perishing. I had seen this before. River, it's not supposed to go like this. I'm sorry, and I am sorry for the deer." River responded, "I am sorry too, but Dad, we have never had an adventure like this." We exited the timber. It was dark. We were on a wildlife management area land, purchased by the state with monies from fund for the sole purpose of wildlife and habitat conservation. As a sign of the times, I did have a cell phone, and it had 2 bars. Sweating, ripe with anxiety, and my legs cramped, I called my wife for a pickup. I marked the last blood and headed to the direction of the road. We would be back in the morning, first thing. This deer was close, and I hoped the coyotes would not have an easy feast. The WMA pristine, but obviously the small camps that once surrounded it had been replaced with large, $1 million lake homes. I did not like that. We do not hunt around people. This act is sacred and not to be shared with those we do not know or that we might offend. I did not like it. Upon returning home, I called 2 people. 2 people who are reliable, wise, faithful, and supportive. Daniel James Wimett, my cousin, a confidant and expert deer tracker. He would give advice and help as soon as he was able. Mike Stannard, a friend and compatriot with a deep love for Vermont, the forest, and his family. We live parallel lives as we try to make sense of our changing world. He would support us and connect me with any private landowners I needed to contact, as his lineage and reputation spans ages in the area. He would be busy with his own children, but would do as much legwork as possible. My wife attempted to contact tracking dogs, a service I had never used. All of a sudden, the hunt was losing authenticity for me. Was River okay? I kissed and hugged my 14-year-old son and put him to bed. We had a big day the following morning. At 5 a.m., a truck door slammed in the driveway. I was up. Dan was here, as he had been countless other times, ready to go fishing or on a planned hunt. I shook River, who was still in his hunting clothes. We put on extra orange and went to find Last Blood. Dan was here. It would be only a matter of moments now. We parked next to a duck hunter and exchanged pleasantries with him, and shortly thereafter, a supportive homeowner on an early morning walk with his dog. "Stop in for some coffee, and good luck," he said. "Let me know if I can help." We tracked the deer in honeysuckle and alder thickets. On our hands and knees, we encouraged each other and cursed as errant branches whipped our face. This was not fun, but this was duty. Another bonding experience in the face of adversity. We had to recover this deer. The deer took us closer to development, where high-end cars parked in paved driveways and we could hear soft volumes of televisions and central vacuums. They were on the opposite side of the road. I had called the large landowners in the vicinity. We were on state land. Were we okay? Dan, I don't like this, I said. Me neither, he responded. Hey you! The violent tone shook us. We were approached by a man walking with a hostile gait. He clearly did not want us there. You are on my land and get off right now. Dan and I stood in front of River, protecting him, as we both explained our situation and expressing that we had no idea we were on private land and we were uncomfortable being there in the first place. There was no reasoning. I will just leave it at that. Later, we learned we were within feet of the WMA boundary and not on the side of the road with homes. River was shocked, Dan infuriated, and I trembling and confused. I asked where the boundaries were and expressed that I in no way was attempting to discredit or be obstinate. I received no answer to my questions. What do we do? I wasn't sure. My son was watching. He had never seen a man treat me like this. We did what we always do, what Dan always does. We took the high road, loaded into the truck, and drove home to gather our thoughts. I wiped moisture from my eyes and said, River, it's not supposed to go like this. Dan said, nope. And we waited 2 hours. I racked my brain. River, get your PFD. That deer is on shore. It's too crowded with homes and it can't continue further. The water is not posted. We will canoe until dark. We did, and we did not find the deer. Terrible. The following evening, I was seated at a school board meeting. I was still stinging and calculating how to debrief the nonsensical with my son. My phone started shaking. My wife, then Mike Stannard, calling. A lot. I stepped out of the room. Come home now. River's deer has been found. I went to Mike's. He and his son Hazen filled me in. It's on Facebook. A picture of it is floating in the lake. They had waders on. I orchestrated a swing through and a pickup of River. Have your tag ready, son. Mike had called the discoverer of the deer. We are on our way, sir, he said. I gave River a pep talk as he approached the door. This is your responsibility, and you will do the talking. Just as he had throughout the past 3 days, he approached the situation with poise and grace. It's a hell of a deer, son, but the game warden has it. Sounds like they are disposing of it. Again, for real? How can this be? The meat may still be good. It's been in a chilly lake. I called the warden, left an emotional message. What could I do? Mike gave support and brainstormed. I called home. Mike pulled his truck over. Josh, my wife answered. The game warden called. The deer is being disposed of right now. He is calling back in a moment. You could hear a pin drop in the truck. I put my head in my hands and squeezed my son's shoulder. My phone rang. Dan's voice responded. I'm at your house. This thing is going nuts. It's all over social media. The antithesis of our desire. River is getting his deer. The warden is bringing it in the morning. The warden recognized our story because the landowner that approached us called him that day. It's all matching up. He says, congratulations. I cried. River smiled. Our friends celebrated. We hung the deer this afternoon. There looks to be very little, if any, spoilage. It has 10 points, weighs 190 pounds. The shot was through both sides of the back end of the brisket, as River had thought. If you cared enough to read this, I hope you can offer thanks to the land with us and celebrate this coming-of-age moment for my son. All the while, give a nod to the warden and our friends who steadfastly stood by and helped us, along with the countless others who offered support. And that's how we'll end this Thanksgiving special. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks for listening to the Hunt Suburbia podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to release an episode every single Sunday throughout the season, throughout the entire year, and we will possibly be releasing some bonus episodes here and there throughout the week as people, come in freshly off a bow kill and tell their stories. We hope that happens throughout the season. There might be weeks where you get 2 or 3 bonus episodes. You might not get one for a couple of weeks, but there will be some bonus episodes. But you can count on us every single Sunday to have a new interview on throughout the season. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Big bucks I've been dreaming often, every night till I'm in a coffin.
Vermont woods to the burbs of Boston. I'm looking for a tree to get lost in. Crisp mornings, little dust in the snow. Quality time, just me and my bow. Fall evenings, I know just where to go for some quality times for me and my bow. It's just me and my